Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, but we have none other than Professor Drew. Remember, he got elevated as he got on the tenure track. So, you know, Assistant Professor Tenure Track AD Drew is getting it done in the building, along with Professor Charles Bishop. Welcome to episode 370 of Inside HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports. From institutions large and small, from the NEIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics, to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. We better known, we just call it HBCU sports pedagogy. With that being said, other people call it March Madness. We simply call it HBCU chaos, and a lot going on. We'll give you an update. If you're not hearing, it's going down in the SIC. And when I say going down, I mean there are some top seeds that continue to go down. We'll give you some updates and messages on that. As you, well, I'll try to keep control of these folks' attentions. There's like 23 seconds left in the game. It's a 5-point game. With Benedict coming in as the 6th seed in the East, is up on the 2nd seed in the East, Savannah State, 73-68. Stick with us. We'll make sure you get your updates and let you know the outcome of the final part there. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. I'm your host, along with my co-host. Today is none other than AD Drew, Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our KCH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer. There's multi-Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, Charles, with all things being said, how you doing today?
Doing well, Doc. Doing well. You know, it's living a life, professor and student. We got midterms next week, so preparing diligently for what's coming up in front of us.
Man, you so mean.
Oh, yeah.
You're just going to throw it out there.
Yeah.
These folks. And, yeah, I see you living that life. I got you.
Oh, man.
I understand. Yeah, exactly. Drew is familiar with that. He's taught at this level as well. With that being said, AD Drew, how you doing today?
Doc, here's my bracket. Let me put it into perspective. Let's look back at the CIAA tournament. 4 of the three of the 4 women's teams who had the bye lost the first round game in the CIAA tournament. 2 of the 4 men's teams with the bye lost their first tournament game. SIAC has double byes. Double byes, double trouble. Yesterday we saw one women's team go down, one men's team go down with the double bye. And today, thus far, we have seen one women's team go down, and we are 16.4 seconds from seeing one men's team go down with one game left to play, Dr. Cavil. I used to love the idea of the double bye because I figured it gave you a chance to make sure that your good teams got advanced and did not get upset early. But when you go to the SIAC and the CIAA, I think that's the uniqueness of those tournaments versus the SWAC and the MEAC, where the SWAC and the MEAC tends to be chalk. CIAA and SIAC, man, anybody beat anybody any doggone time.
Is the parity like that during the course of the season?
Say it again.
I said the parity isn't like that during the course of the season.
No, it's not. You usually have 1 or 2 dominant teams on both sides of the ledger in the in both the SIAC and the CIAA. But if you got 2 dominant teams in a division, you might as well put it down like money in the bank. One of those 2 seeds is going down to that first game that they play in the tournament. To that team who had to play a day before or 2 days before just to get to them. So I guess it's the rest versus rust. The rest doesn't win when it comes to the Division II level.
Great question. Great points made. It's coming down. 10 seconds left. It looks like Benedict is going to close it out as a 77-68. Savannah State had a couple of chances with 3-point baskets that just would not go. So obviously, Benedict with the rebounds gets fouled. They're going to the line and stretching out the lead. So it's ugly here. It's a final 10-point win by Benedict, 78-68 over Savannah State. Yep. So that's how it goes sometimes. Let me go to you, Charles. What are some of the things on your mind?
Yeah, let's take a look at this.
What's hot news today for you?
We had a bit of history that was made in the SWAC as Natala Hawthorne became the first female to officiate a Division I baseball game in the league on February 28th when she called the plate job for the Alabama A&M versus Stillman contest. And this is a quote from her: being the first woman is surreal. Mr. Holloway and his ability to see my potential to take a chance on me made me want to do nothing but make him and this conference proud. My goal was to work hard. Finding out I would be the first woman was extra. And this is a quote from Robert Holloway. We are elated to have Ms. Hawthorne on the SWAC staff because she has demonstrated the ability to umpire at the Division I level proficiently. Her being a barrier breaker as a minority female is just icing on the cake. So history being made in the SWAC in regards to first female umpire behind the plate.
Man, I like it. That's great news. I saw that came out. I'm glad you brought it up and shared it with everybody. This is the final game for the MEAC, men and women. So we got some MEAC women games going on. So I'll give us some score updates there. In the SWAC, you have the final games for some teams as they do one of their last 2, which is today and Saturday. And then you have those rivalry games between Texas Southern and Prairie View, FAMU, and Bethune-Cookman on Saturday only. So it'll be interesting as you get some of these women's scores going on. Before I ask Drew any additional hot news that he wants to get out there for us to ponder and consider that's on the landscape. On the Thursday night games for the MEAC, already Norfolk State has claimed the regular season championship. So this is all about seeding for some teams. North Carolina Central is up on South Carolina State, 55-42. That's 3:37 left in the fourth. And again, these are women's scores. And then you have Delaware State up on Maryland Eastern Shore, 50-38. That's with 7:48 left. You have Morgan State hosting Coppin State, and they're up over Coppin, 47-35. That's with 10 minutes left in the fourth, just getting started there in the fourth. Then you have Howard defeating, up on Norfolk State with a shocker to some degree. Double digits, 39-26, but it's just in the third, 6:23, so it's a little early. We got some time there, but it's a big lead, so we'll see what that looks like. Might be a little hangover for the ladies at Norfolk State, as last Monday they were able to claim a championship. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like in terms of all that's going on there. In terms of the SWAC, you have some SWAC women games playing tonight, if you would. You have your matchup on HBCU Go, I should say. But with that being said, you have Grambling State up over Alabama A&M, 32-27 with 4:56 left in the third. You have Jackson State up just 13-9 starting the second quarter, 5:40 left in that. You have Alcorn State pounding Mississippi Valley right now, 31-19, 4:31 left in the second, so it's still early there. You have Southern up over Alabama State, 40-31, with 2:46 left in the second quarter in that matchup. With that being said, plenty of basketball as you coming down to the final stretch for the Division I programs. You got the SIC tournament going on, so that's fascinating. One other update I do want to share is Langston's. Langston's men have did the double-double. They won the regular season in the Sooner Athletic Conference, and they have now won the tournament. Langston continues to thrive and show how talented they are on the men's side. So it'll be interesting to see what that look like. 80 Drew, we did the church, Black Church.
I saw it.
Framing on Tuesday, if you saw that.
Yes, I did.
Just shouted out everybody, but Langston was playing at night, so I wanted to get them in. With that being said, anything else that you wanted to share before we take our first break?
Yeah.
Doc, I got so many ways I could go with this.
I'll come back to you, Charles. I'll get you.
Sure.
You want another one? You got time. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got so many ways I could go with this, Doc. But first, I'm going to get a promo in before I go where I want to go. Make sure you tune into the BCSN SportsWrap on this Sunday. We're going to have Commissioner Dr. Anthony Holloman that we will air on Sunday night show. Gonna have a special guest who's been going to internet fame as of late, a person that we all know and love. But you got to tune in to see what it is. So we're gonna let him tell his story on the BCSN SportsWrap on Sunday. Yeah. Everybody's laughing because they y'all know what I'm talking about.
I love the tease. I love the tease.
Yes. You know, he's gone from telling the story to becoming a story. We'll just say that. Now, but where I really want to go is MEAC. End of the season. So you know what the word is. MEAC. What? Ish. All right. After tonight's games, everybody, thank God Maryland Eastern Shore lost Monday because we're only left with 3 teams that can finish 10-4 after tonight's game. North Carolina Central plays South Carolina State. Let's give it a W. Norfolk and Howard play. We know Howard won the first time. Norfolk needs to win tonight. If that should happen, you will have Central, Howard, and Norfolk all tied at 10-4. Don't forget, if Maryland Eastern Shore would have beaten Morgan on Monday, we would have had 4 teams. But let's get down to the 3. Brian and I went through this on Sunday's show. We actually contacted the MEAC office to find out what the tiebreakers will be, Dr. Cavil. Obviously, you go to head-to-head. 3-way tie, so you can't use head-to-head. Next thing you do is record amongst the 3 that's tied. Guess what? Everybody split with each other. Should Norfolk win? What's the next tiebreaker? Conference only record based on winning percentage versus highest ranked team. What that means, everybody, is you start with the next team that's not a part of the tiebreaker and see what it is. If a team went 2-0 versus a team, then a team went 1-1 versus a team, that 2-0 team now steps ahead of the other team. Guess what, y'all? Everybody got the same doggone record against everybody else. Now we're down to
the 4th.
No, we're down to the next one. Scoring margin versus common conference opponent. Of course, it's common conference. Everybody plays everybody. So now somebody's going to have to pull out the Excel spreadsheet and points for, points against in the conference to see who wins that tiebreaker.
I love it.
This is the MEAC. Just in case that happens to be tied, then you're going to go to the best winning percentage in non-conference games versus Division I opponents. And then after all said and done, I don't know if you've seen the 3-sided coin, Dr. Cavil, but they've got coin toss as the final tiebreaker, and we're going to have to find a 3-sided coin to break that thing since we got 3 teams fight. Just wanted to talk about the ish of the day from the MEAC.
So you see the SWAC with the chaos, and you got the ish on the MEAC. With that being said, Charles, I know you wanted to add a bit of news too, so go ahead.
Yeah, very interesting article came out, Sports Illustrated by Richard Johnson, in terms of the 20 most influential Black figures in college football. So they had some names familiar to us listed on this top 20. Deion Sanders, current coach at Colorado, former coach at Jackson State, being number 1 on the list. The commissioners from the 4 conferences that make up the HBCUs right now, they were listed, I believe, 10 through 14. Let me pull that up real quick. But yes, 10 through 13, Power 4 HBCU commissioners, Jackie McWilliams Parker from the CIAA, Dr. Charles F. McCullough from the SWAC, Anthony Holloman from the SIAC, as AD mentioned, will be on his show, and Sonya Steele from the MEAC, represented players in terms of 10 through 13 on this top 20 list. And then as we move down, also listed at number 17 is John T. Grant, Executive Director of the Celebration Bowl, and Stephen Gaither. He is number 18 on this list of 20, founder of HBCU Game Day, in terms of the power players, if you will, and power players in terms of Blacks in college football. So a very interesting list, to say the least.
I wonder what Dr. Holloman is going to have to say about it. Yeah, shout out to Stephen Gaither. We can find out what Dr. Holloman has to say on Sunday.
No doubt, no doubt. Let's get into our first break. We'll be right back after this quick break. We'll get into the mid-major top 5 for the women. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Are you
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want to loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, because he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. I want to go into these top 5 rankings in week number 8 as we start to close out the season. This will be the last one in terms of closing out the season, bring out week 9, and then we get into the tournament. We'll give you week 10, and before you know it, we'll have a mid-major, major division champion of 2022-2023. I'm fascinated to see how it all comes down. We might have to wait a little bit in terms of the women, mid and men's, as some of them, particularly on the men's side, I expect that they should make a nice run in the tournament. With that being said, let's get into the women matchup in regards to see what you think in week number 8. Dropping out this week, as you see, before we get into dropping out, let's look who's receiving votes. Elizabeth City State Vikings, 19-10, 9-7 with 14 points. Fayetteville State Broncos 18-7, 14-2 with 9 points. Savannah State Tigers 17-7, 13-6 with 7 points. Lincoln Lions of Pennsylvania 19-9, 12-4 with 6 points. And as you see, Fayetteville State dropped out of the poll rankings this week. So we'll get a new entrance in the top 5, and we'll get to tell you what that looks like. Yeah, it's one of those weeks. It's been tough, but we'll see what takes place. Hey, this is top 5. Look at the record of these teams in the top 5 to give you indication. It's not just about winning regular season, which will put you in a good position, but it's certainly not just about winning the tournament, which is what I call a sprint, versus the season being the mile relay when you think about what that looks like. So as we get in the top 5, with number 5, we have West Virginia State, the Yellow Jackets. Previous number 3, they're falling hard, but they find a way to stay in the top 5. They need to make a run in the tournament. We'll see what that looks like. 22-5 on the season, 17-5 in the conference race. With a loss as they split last week, they dropped 2 spots. Bringing us to number 4, Philander Smith Panthers, 22-5, 17-5, 37 points. Not ranked, they jump in to the poll rankings. They go all the way to the final of the Gold Coast Athletic Conference. They lose on a buzzer beater to Russ. And you talk about Russ. Russ comes in at number 3. Russ Bearcats 22-5, 12-2, 43 points. Up 2 spots from number 5. We got a chance to interview the coach of the champions of the GCAC for the tournament on the women's side. Hope you enjoyed that. If you haven't heard it, go back to Tuesday night and you can check that out. At number 2, you have Florida Memorial Lions, 24-5, 15-1, 51 points. Moving up 2 spots from number 4, Florida Memorial Lions. They do the double duty as they win the regular season and the tournament, much like the Rush Bearcats. Next on the list is one of the few teams that be able to see the muscle through the SIAC tournament unscathed of some of these upsets that AG was sharing his bracket. That's the one bracket that he didn't show you that is feeling good about, that's still in play. He didn't put that up because it's just not looking right.
Only half the bracket.
Trying to keep it low. Right. Keep it low until after the fact, and then you get up and cheer. I understand. AG. Right there. But right now, they are the team that comes in at number 1. The Golden Tigers, the ladies are getting it done. 22-3, 19-0, 6 first place votes, 60 points, remain number 1, and they stood the test of time. Can they find a way to do the double duty and really lock in that number 1 spot? You talking about what would be probably the upset of the year thus far, particularly on the women's side, would be Tuskegee going down in the tournament. I don't see it happen. I think they're ready to get it done. With that being said, Charles, I'm going to give to you first with the Tuskegee Golden Tigers as they maintain the number 1 ranking. They have all the first place votes. They are showing why they are that talented as they roll through the SIAC tournament.
Yeah, very well deserved in terms of being number 1 team. I find it very interesting. I think Russ coach pointed out the other night when we talked to him. But all 3 of these number 1, number 2, and number 3 teams, they have a dominant score, a secondary score, but they're also the same thing in regards to rebounding. They're all 3 of these top 3 teams are very dominant in terms of second chance opportunities and rebounding. You'll all see them at the top of the conference in terms of rebounding. So very well deserved. I think the top 5 are right on point.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I appreciate you. We'll make sure that we continue to share the love on the show, even though everybody else says that you disappeared. But you got the phone. We're going to make sure that you hear and everybody can see you.
I didn't know I had disappeared, but man.
Yeah, I was like, my fault. My fault. Man, you missed 1 show in like 4 years. And it's over. With that being
oh my God.
And a teacher, as they say, your mom said, that'll teach you.
Yeah, I know, right?
No, that'll learn you.
Yeah, that'll learn me.
That'll learn you. Yeah. Katie, Drew, what are your thoughts on the top 5 ranking?
I'm going to have to give you an 80 on the top 5. I'm going to have to give you an 80 on your receiving votes, Dr. Cavil. And here's why. You have always said that your poll is a week-to-week poll, and that
that's correct.
That you go by the one of the main components is what you have done that week.
That's right. That's right.
No disrespect to Philander Smith. They played a hell of a game, but they lost. Elizabeth City State won their conference championship. They won that sprint. So you've got the team that Philander Smith was receiving votes last week, and they lost and got into the top 5. But Elizabeth City State won and couldn't get into the top 5. But the team that lost bumped up to the top 5. I've got to ask the question, Dr. Cavil, to your posters on, did they stick to the criteria that was in the syllabus?
Right. I think you asked a wonderful question there.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. That is one of the parameters that is in the syllabus. So did the voters vote like that? One thing I will say in regards to this, there's also a consideration of where Elizabeth City State Vikings were previously, as you talked about.
And that's fair.
That was a curious thing.
To your point, and you did your homework, so I like that, is that Philander Smith was receiving votes. So I think part of it is they just were so far ahead of Elizabeth City State that they couldn't get in there. I will say this. West Virginia State was really close. You see it's 17 points with Elizabeth City State at 14. So they were almost there to knock West Virginia State out, which would still been a great argument because you would have had 4 and 5 with 5 not being ranked, but getting in the top 5 along with 5 not being ranked. So it's that margin as you talk about the week to week that makes it in, but it's a good point. So it'll be interesting to see what may happen over the next week in terms of other teams to find out what that looks like. West Virginia in the tournament, if they don't get it right, they could fall out, which could put Elizabeth City in the top 5.
Last one quickly. Miles should be somewhere on this list in the receiving votes. I think Miles should be in before Savannah State. Both of them finished number 2 in their respective division. But having actually seen these teams, Miles is the second best women's team in the SIAC. Miles' biggest problem is they compete on the same side as Tuskegee.
With Tuskegee. I like it. I'll take that one. I'll give you an A+ on that. Charles, did you have any final thought that you want to jump in this?
No. I think we can move right on to the men, but that's a good point.
All right, let's get into our next break. We'll come back on the other side and get into the men and see what your thoughts are as we're closing up on some games in the MEAC. We do have some finals here. I'll share that with you. Delaware State beats Maryland Eastern Shore. And we have North Carolina Central defeating South Carolina State. So we'll give you those updates. And as we come back, we'll give you some seedings based on that. 53 seconds with Morgan State up over Coppin State 52-47. Howard is still leading Norfolk State 49-40, but it's 8:47 left in that. You had an update with Miles?
No. I said that was expected, which is what I said.
Yeah, great point. We'll come back on the other side. If we can get some finals here, we'll give you an update of what we believe the seedings will be on the women's side. It's a little clearer than what Drew broke down on the men's side. We'll have to pull out our calculators to see if that doesn't quite go right. So you'll be attuned to that matchup as it goes into the evening. With that being said, we'll turn it back on the other side. We'll be right back after this break. We'll get into the mid-major men's top 5 and see what you think there from these two professors as they give you the updates to let you know what things, whether somebody is reading the syllabus or not. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN SportsWrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN SportsWrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
T. Madden and Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients.
Call T. Madden and Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. As we promised, we're back on the other side. We're gonna give you the top 5 on the men's side for the mid-major division and see what's going on. We're going to see how well the voters and the computers did this week in week number 5. Let's start it out with a team did drop out this week. So we'll talk about those receiving votes and give you the team that dropped out as well. Virginia Union Panthers, 23-7, 12-4, a great season, 23 points, but they lose in the semifinals of the CIAA as they were making their final run. And with that loss, it drops them out of the top 5 with some other teams doing well. Miles Golden Bears sit at 21-6, 15-5, 21 points. Not so much on the women's side, but at least on the men's side, they get some love. So good point made by Drew. We'll see what he thinks on this one. Claflin Panthers sit at 19-6, 15-5, 14 points. And West Virginia State Yellow Jackets with 20 wins are at 20-8, 14-8, 12, just receiving votes, but outside of the vaunted top 5. Dropping out this week was none other than the Virginia Union Panthers at 23-7, 12-4. But let's look in this top 5 poll ranking, starting with number 5. You'll notice everybody in the top 5 have 20 wins, just getting into the top 5. Winston-Salem State Rams, 20-8, 9-7, 41 points, were not ranked. They went on the run at the season to get the vaulted CIAA tournament championship. They get it done. Push out Virginia Union Panthers at 23-7, but they are able to jump in. At number 4, Tuskegee Golden Tigers sit at 20-7, 15-5, 52 points. They move up the spot, but we'll see what it means after this SIAC tournament run where they were up leading in that matchup and actually in the second half gave up the same amount in terms of the lead. So, boy, you talking about getting touched a little bit. At number 3, Philander Smith Panthers sit at 22-7, 10-4, 62 points. They move up a spot from number 4 in terms of the top 5. At number 2, Langston Lions sit at 28-2, 20-2. 3 first place votes at 76 points. They are ranked number 2. Sitting at number 1, Tougaloo Bulldogs, 28-1, 14-0. Perfect record on the season in regards to being undefeated against NAIA and obviously undefeated in the in the regular season, and they get it done with the tournament. So they do the double dip, just like Langston, getting it done with 5 first-place votes, 79 points. They end up at number 1. It will be interesting to see, as you mentioned about Philander Smith, on the men's side, do they have enough since they fell short as well in terms of the men's side of the tournament this week with the SIAC team? Will the team that wins the SIAC, will they have enough in the corner to be able to get in the top 5? Or will it stay the same next week? We'll see. I'm going to start with you, AD Drew, this time. Let me know what are your thoughts on the top 5.
Well, Dr. Cavil, first of all, we know we're going to have an adjustment to your top 5 because Tuskegee lost. Obviously, this was taken before.
Hey, that's the one.
Before the game last night.
Let it be known.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and get that out there. So we're talking about the top 4 now because we're just going to just discount Tuskegee all the way out of this. And yes, I can talk about them because I've got a degree from them, so I can talk about them. Can't nobody else talk about them on this doggone show. But looking at it, I'm wait a minute. Can we flash that back up there, Mr. Producer?
Yes. Put up the top 5.
Put the top 5 back up there. The full 5. There we go. Right there. The only thing that I'm going to say, obviously, we dropped Tuskegee out. Now the question is, with Philander, once again, losing in the championship game, should Philander be ahead of a Winston-Salem State team who won? I'm just asking the question. But just like Elizabeth City,
that you like the referee, at least they consistent.
But just like Elizabeth City, they came from down, and I don't even remember if Winston-Salem was receiving votes last week. To be honest with you, Doc. So that's one question that we have to answer. The next question, who replaces Tuskegee in the top 5?
Virginia.
No, Miles is the best team that's left out there in their receiving votes.
Interesting.
Miles is still playing. Miles is still playing. Virginia Union might be at the house. Miles still has a chance to get some style points. Virginia Union submitted their resume.
This is good. Charles, your time for the retort. I do want to get this on the table. Stephen Gaither actually says the record for Winston-Salem State Rams is 21-8. So I stand corrected on that. Thank you, Stephen. What are your thoughts in terms of the top 5? And then giving a little projection in terms of next week in regards to the likelihood to Tuskegee falling out. I love the question y'all put on the table. Is it Virginia Union that should be in the top 5, or is it Miles Golden Bears? Those that type in and listen to the show, Stephen Gaither and the others, Karen Griffin, tell me what your thoughts in terms of whether it's Miles or Virginia Union. You know, Karen is a Tuskegee person, so she's talking about the women, but it'd be interesting what she'll say. Will she get a nod to Miles? Understanding that rival. Charles, go ahead.
I mean, well, we obviously dropped Tuskegee out. But let me tell you what jumps out to me is the strength of the NAIA team. When you take a look at Tougaloo and Langston, 1 and 2, and all season I've been like, wow, where's the CIAA? Where's the CIAA? Where's the CIAA? Well, this is that week where at least I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I'll at least see Winston-Salem State up as high probably as 3 or 4 in Virginia Union, even though they lost, but they did lose to the eventual champion. So I had, I had them in there somewhere. So I had to give CIAA some love and some respect this week. I hear what you're saying, Drew, in terms of Miles still being the strongest team sitting out there, and their resume is not complete. That's a very compelling point. But I had Virginia Union up there a little bit higher. But again, another week, I say shout out to the NAIA teams. It was just we talked about the strength of them this year in terms of their prowess on the court, and they have a lot of Division I players playing. And just taking a look from a fantasy standpoint, how would they look versus those CIAA teams or SIAC teams in terms of those head-to-head matchups?
I think right now, Charles, you might be right. Virginia Union, based on what their resumes were coming into this week, I think Virginia Union would be slightly ahead of a Miles, but like I said, Miles still has. Well, we know they're at least playing tonight, possibly 3 games to add to their resume. Miles gets to the championship game, they're ahead of Virginia Union, especially if they win the SIAC. They're definitely ahead of Virginia Union.
I can give it then.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love this. I love this. Let me get some of those comments. So we got some good ones coming in. Stephen Gaither is all in it. You know, he's going to really tell you about the CIAA. Might be a slight slant there. Drew, SIAC. So great dialogue going back and forth in terms of what that looks like. Edward D. Moore says Grambling State women and men's basketball, Alabama A&M, giving some updates in terms of the women's there. We'll give you those scores. Stephen Gaither says CIAA not getting enough respect. Virginia Union 23-7 with a loss to a 21-8 Winston-Salem State Park.
Yeah.
I'll give you that's a great point. Edwin D. Moore says Tougaloo men, Russ women. Keep it rolling. 4 games in 4 days for Winston-Salem State. Another good point. Professor Drew always fights for Miles on the down low. Laugh out loud. I like that. Professor Drew is rooting for TU's conference cousin. I like this. Good stuff. Charles is on it tonight. Charles, you're getting the salute. They said you did your homework. Karen Griffin says, I'm going to pull for fellow SIAC teams. I love it. Good. Much love there. Great ball on the U2 level. No doubt about it. That's why we wanted to get it in. We've had, obviously, Stephen Gaither before the tournament coming in. We might see if we can get it up of seeing what's going on, because tonight is also fascinating. Stay in contact with us. Make sure you check it out at 7 o'clock. What goes on, Drew?
Actually, right now they are announcing the NAIA women's pairings during the next break. I will see if they've all come out, and right as soon as we go off the air, they will go into the NAIA men's pairing. So we'll see where all of our HBCUs are on those levels. And I'm going to see if I can pull up the NAIA bracket while we finish out this segment, Doc, and give you a report on the other side.
Sounds good. Sounds great. With that being said, if we don't get into it tonight, make sure you tune in to Brian and AD on Sunday night. Obviously, they talk about the fact that they have the SIAC commissioner on there for an interview. They have another guest that you'll probably be interested in hearing for, somebody that reports on the news, but as he said, seems to become a part of the news. You may be able to guess and see what that looks like. Should be fascinating to see what's going on. Lennon, I'm not getting into the question that you said earlier. I understand that. We're going to leave that alone until we get more information, as they said, so we can report it correctly, although it seems to be out there pretty much for everybody to see. But with that being said, we're going to stay hot and heavy on the sports side of this to get in this, see what's going on. Before we get out of here, I think it's some great updates to give you. As we said earlier, Delaware State defeats Maryland Eastern Shore 68-44. North Carolina Central defeats South Carolina State 61-47. Again, these are women's scores. Another game has gone final, which is Morgan State defeating Coppin State 57-49. All this has some seedings, but the one that's really going to be interesting in seeding is for the second spot, and it's going to come down to whether Howard can hang on 53-46, whether they remain at the number 2 seed, I believe it is, because they have the point differential. If both teams are tied, they both split, but the second tiebreaker is point differential. So if they can hold on to the upset, it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. You'll have 2 teams that finish at 10-4, where Norfolk State will fall to 11-3. If they can come back, and then Morgan State will get the number 2 seed. So we'll keep an eye on that. 3:49 left in that contest on the women's side. We'll come back on the other side. And
we got 3 in.
Updates. 3 in?
We got 3 in. We'll talk about it on the other side. Three teams in the NAIA.
We'll give you these scores for the SWAC women. We'll take a break, come back on the other side, and we'll get those 3 in and talk about some more matchups as we go down to it. As things are getting good, it's interesting in the fourth quarter with 1:18 left. Alabama A&M is up over Grambling State 48-46. Jackson State is playing in a close one early with Arkansas Pine Bluff. Again, another one of those championship spoils might be going on. Hangover, 27-23, 5:17 left, but it is just the third quarter. You have Alcorn State up over Mississippi Valley, 48-34 with 4:48 left. And you have Southern getting it done against Alabama State with 1:56 left in the third quarter, 56-41. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this last break. We'll give you this last segment, set some things up for what they look at. We'll give you the updates of which teams are in the NIA for the women, and we'll stick around and see what we can get for you. Stick with us as we come back right after this break. We'll be right back.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Now, you can live in Texas and not have a good red meat blend. Texas Cowboy Dust is designed for steak and other red meats. It's out to be my most popular spice blend, made with onions, peppers, ground mushrooms, pink salt, and other spices. Texas Cowboy Dust also goes great with chicken, pork, vegetables, and adds a restaurant-quality sheen to gravies and sauces.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
Vanilla smoked sea salt seasoning is for seafood. The tarragon and fennel bring out the natural sweetness in seafood. I also use it in rice dishes, on yams, asparagus, blueberry pancakes, and believe it or not, chocolate chip cookies. Vanilla smoked sea salt adds a salty and savory component to sweet dishes that create a symphony for the tongue.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We're gonna jump right back into it. Tease it out a little bit, AD Drew. You had 3 teams on the women's side that got in the NIA tournament. Tell us who they are and what's the seeding.
All right, we'll start off with the GCAC champion Rusk College Bearcats. They are ranked number 9. They will take on Faulkner of Alabama. That's Montgomery, Alabama. And they will be playing their first and second round games in Campbellsville, Kentucky. All right, and that is in the Dewar quadrant. In the Kramer quadrant, fellow GCAC friend Philander Smith will be taking on Montana Western. That's a 3-14 matchup. Guess which side of that matchup Philander Smith is on when I say 3-14. And they are playing those games in Park City, Kansas. I believe, if I've got my geography right, that's outside the Wichita area of Kansas. And the final team in is Florida Memorial, another 3-14 matchup.
Now, they just get a 14 seed?
Florida Memorial wins the Sun Conference, one of the toughest conferences. They win a non-HBCU conference, which means everybody else in that conference is a HWCU. They go through that conference, lose their first game, win the final 15, then win 3 in the tournament, so that's 18 in a row, and they're a 14 seed, and they will be playing Marion, Indiana, and they will be playing those games in Indianapolis, Indiana.
With the tough seeding, as you said there, with me from Florida Memorial. Stick with you real quick, Drew.
And those games are March 7th and 8th. You can go to naia.org and find out information on how to watch them. It is a paid stream if you want to watch these teams at this point. And quick update, Miles with 12:30 to go. Miles up 14-4 over Edward Waters.
Good, great update. With that being said, 80 Drew, on those 3 teams, which team could win a game, and then of them, if they can win maybe a couple of games, which one will potentially go the deepest in the tournament?
Russ should get out of the first round against Faulkner. Faulkner is a good team, but I think Russ has what it takes to get out of that. Having to play Campbellsville on their own home floor the second round is going to be tough. The other one, and just having seen Florida Memorial play, I mean, I could literally see Florida Memorial going through and actually getting out of this and getting to the 16 more than I can Russ, even though I think Russ has a better team. Russ has a better first round matchup. If Florida Memorial gets through that first round, they'll come on out of that. They'll come on out of that bracket and make out of that pod and make it to the 16.
Great one, Charles. Same question to you. Which one of those teams that you see win a game or maybe go to deepest in the tournament?
I'm with AD on this. I think Russ has an opportunity where they can make a statement early and catch that a little bit of momentum, and that's all it takes when you talk about one and done. And I think they can make a little bit of a run in terms of taking a look at what they've done thus far. Rebounding and low post scoring is what you need to go far in March. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do.
Great points. With that being said, tough news to deliver for you. Tennessee State on Wednesday opened up first round play in OBC against SIU Edwardsville and lost 71-64.
Was that being
a women?
Get
any?
No,
that's women's. I'm sorry. Thank you for that. Good point. And it didn't get much better for our independent programs on the women's side in the Colonial, as you had North Carolina A&T. They were winning most of this game as they had that early tip-off, but Delaware was able to come back and get it done and beat North Carolina A&T in that matchup. Delaware wins 79-75. Hampton plays this evening. They're playing at 6. No scoring update as Hampton plays Hofstra. So A&T, that you thought maybe as one of the top teams during the regular season, could go on a run. They
just fell off the deep end at the end of the season.
Exactly. Yeah, they've lost 2 out of 4. Struggled a bit there. Things didn't quite go there. They lose that one in overtime to Delaware, 79-75. So that's a tough matchup. What's going on there? We have 4 seconds left, so we can pretty much say Howard should get it done unless there's something goes off the radar. So in terms of seeding, you're going to have Norfolk State, the 1 seed, Morgan State, and Howard are tied at 10-4. They went 1-1 against each other. Morgan State had the point differential, so they should be number 2 seed according to the tiebreaker. But the official will come out. This is just to give you some other indication. At number 3, you have Howard coming in that spot, even though they're tied in second space. If they can hold on to the lead here. North Carolina Central finishes at 8-6, so they're 4th seed. You have Cotton State and Delaware State tied at the 5-9 seed with Maryland Eastern Shore. So that's one of those MEAC-ish tiebreakers, so I'm not going to get into everything that Haiti Drew broke down earlier. We'll let the conference figure it out. And the 8th seed will be South Carolina State in terms of what goes on there. Let me give you a final update on the women's side of the SWAC. Obviously, we have the HBCU Go games going on in terms of what that looks like there. That is Jackson State at Arkansas Pine Bluff. So that's on HBCU Go. You'll see the men's, which will be interesting in terms of that matchup. They want to give you some scores here. The Grambling, Alabama A&M game is went final. A&M Bulldogs, the lady gets it done still on the women's side, 55-60. You have Southern coming down the stretch with 6:24 left up on Alabama State, 66-55. You have Alcorn pounding the City Valley even more now, 58-41. 8:14 left in the 4th. Jackson State has come back. They're already taking the lead. 2:28 left in the 3rd, so they've gone rolling, 31-25, but it is a intriguing contest. In terms of the men's matchup, Charles, what are your final thoughts in terms of what games you have wanted to look at in terms of these SWAC and MEAC games tonight?
Yeah, I think AD, he talked about all the madness that could happen within the MEAC at the top of the show. But the games that I'm looking at, especially this weekend in the SWAC, Texas Southern and Prairie View. That has the potential to have a lot riding on it in regards to Texas Southern getting into the tournament next week. Another one that is intriguing, to say the least, is Jackson State. They've got on a little bit of a roll going into the final weeks of the tournament. And if they go 2-0 this weekend, I believe they will have won, if I'm not mistaken, 4 or 5 in a row. So for them to catch a little bit of a hot streak going into the tournament is going to be very interesting. But those are the games that I think will be really interesting to watch this weekend. Grambling, of course, Alabama A&M at Grambling. I think that'll be interesting to see what happens between Grambling and Alcorn State, who will be the top seed, who will win in the regular season SWAC men's championship. So those are the games I think will be very intriguing in the SWAC this weekend.
I like it. Final things here. Told you about HBCU Go tonight. On Saturday, HBCU Go will feature the Texas Tussle, which is Texas Southern and Prairie View. Be fascinating. That could come down to whether Texas Southern gets in. We'll see what that means at the end of the night. Also on ESPNU, which is a game that I'm going to have focus on the men's side, you have Norfolk State versus Howard. So that should be an interesting matchup because it will decide whether we have this three-way tie. Can Howard win the conference first time in 30-some years? With that being said, I want to say thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop, with A.D. Drew. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock. We look forward to you next week as we discuss the latest in the lab. Make sure, again, you check out on Sunday. You check out Brian and A.D. as they have a great show lined up with some great interviews. Check them out. They'll give you some updates in terms of what that looks like in our – yeah, it will be juicy. I know I'll be turning in. We got to worry about that on multiple levels. Should be information full of that as well as intriguing discussion and dialogue. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattaCavil. That's DrKenyattaCavil. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
AD?
Lecture.
Dismiss.